house.
We all did.
And it's a long drive from, I went to Windsor, so it's a long drive.
Is that?
3+ hours.
Oh, yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, it was fine, the roads, except it was foggy. So, yeah.
I can raise your hand.
Right.
When I got here, the seat was super high.
Was it the sinking seat?
I don't think so, but
And I tend to do that.
yeah, I lowered it too low.
Good. Right. If you go to catch her. Yeah, she goes out.
No, I don't want to. Too much responsibility, get confused.
Yeah, I know, I do too. That's what's scary. Yeah.
Dreams, I had office so I could actually find my office.
Yeah, she's
This
had two.
is Would that be from last time too, or just this term? This term, just last year. Basically, this term, because we didn't get some. Someone was, when Tammy was here, she always took, years ago, after she left. After COVID. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that wasn't it. So that was something for reference, for the first week, I don't know, look at it again.
I have a sinking chair.
Okay, welcome to the District of Chosen Special Council meeting of Monday, January 29th. Nice to see some people in the audience as well as council members, so welcome. With the agenda, we have one item here, a pink, which was just an addition to the District of Chosen Council Code bylaw staff report. The CAO just wanted you to look at number 13, which he preferred.
Hit you hard in the face.
And with that, pink as addition to the staff report, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So
Moved by Councillor Shupin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Public participation. Does anybody wish to speak at public participation? If so, if you could
See everybody
identify
fighting
yourself.
for the podium here.
Yeah, identify yourself in the road, please. Thank you.
Avril Yoakum, Windfall Road. I'm going to speak on the chosen school multi-use. Sort of points I'd like clarification on the 4 groups, how inclusive they are, and whether or not the kitchen is a separate fee from the gymnasium. And there's a classroom. Is that one or more? And is it a specific classroom? And with no disrespect to the fire department, I feel everybody should pay. Except there might be a couple, I think of the flu clinic, which I feel doesn't and shouldn't pay, but I feel everybody else needs to pay to get this poor old school up and trying to cover just bare minimum expenses. Because with the gym or a classroom being used, it still has to be cleaned and maintained and heated. You can always go down in price, but if you start giving it out for free, you'll never be able to add a price. just a cautionary measure. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anybody else wish to speak at public participation?
Good afternoon, Brent Donaldson, Challenger Court. Just a carryover from last Monday's council meeting. There was members of the public that spoke that didn't appear to be in favor of a code of conduct or with regard to volunteering. And certainly my last job was I was a minute manager for fire department at Saanich. And when you have code of conducts, I always think you're looking at the worst case scenario. Certainly the gentlemen that spoke last Monday night were upstanding, but we're in a different time. And certainly social media plays a part of that. People can get behind their phones and computers, and certainly if someone's representative of the municipality, whether it be volunteering or an advisory committee, I think we have to have a certain level of respect. And certainly I think that it's an important document, and I think it's wise that we have one. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, seeing nobody else, thank you for your participation. So we've got correspondence from Councillor Gray on alternate wording. I thought we could go through the actual document starting at about 25, and we can weave some of the recommendations into that. So if you turn to page 7, which is the report from the Chief Administrator or from our Deputy Corporate Officer. The background is there. So if that's okay with everybody, we left off last at 25, so I thought we'd just back up a couple of points till we could identify what we're dealing with. It is the conflict of interest piece. If that's okay. So, anybody have any comments? Go ahead.
So, thanks, Mayor Little. I'm fine to start here. It would be great to maybe circle back to sections 8, 9 to 8, 12, because I think there were a number of questions that we collectively had.
Yep.
But it's probably a good point to, or a good way of going ahead to start where you're starting. 'Cause
Yeah,
we
so
haven't-
I wanted to make a little bit of traction on the reviewing it all, and then we can go back, if that's all right.
Where do you want to start from?
So at 22,
Section 22.
yeah, page 15. Okay, so we had reviewed up to 25, but just to give some context, we're talking about the conflict of interest, and this is very much in line with what it says in the charter, in the community charter, in section 101. Does anybody have any issue with any of the wording or what the contents are? No? Yeah, go ahead.
I personally don't. I looked, it was, I think it was a really great opportunity to have this on the agenda as more of a singular item, and so had a chance to walk through, and I don't have any concerns about the conflict of interest provisions.
Okay, anybody have any comments regarding conflict of interest up to 25? So page 16. Okay, and then moving along to outside activities and business relations. So this is dealing with anybody else with an outside life, outside profession rather, or occupation. It outlines some mostly don'ts of anything. Does anybody have any comments regarding this? No. Okay, that's fine. And then that goes right to item number 28 on page 17, council members' use of municipal assets and services. 28 and 29. It's a bit wordy in number 28, but I understand what they're talking about. Intellectual property, supply services property. Go ahead, Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you. What I found interesting looking at some of the other municipalities' code of conduct and the one that's been presented to us, the wording, quite a few of the
paragraphs or sections start out by a council member shall not, and then it goes on. And so as a comparative, if I was to look at Sydney, it would say council members shall, and it would tell all of what they need to do. So the wording of shall not seems to be really a negative to set it off. But one of the things that I did, 28 is very wordy, and I question partway down where it's probably the second sentence where it starts, accordingly, a council member shall not obtain personal gain from the use or sale of district intellectual property. And there's quite a lot of different things here that may not apply to Machosen's business, like compositions. I don't know, do we create compositions and designs? Or do we have patents? Do we have trademarks and that sort of thing? So it is wordy, and then when I were to look at Sydney, it's quite a lot more succinct. So I'm not sure that we would need all of what is in this. At least half of it, I think, probably doesn't apply to us.
What number is the one in Sydney?
The one in Sydney is number 29.
Okay. Yeah, so 2.5 lines. Council members shall not use town public resources as staff time, equipment, technology, supplies, facilities, or other property for private gain, personal purposes, or election-related purposes.
Excuse me, just a point of order. I don't think we all have Sydney's here. Can we distribute that?
No, I didn't distribute it. But
I'm asking if we could distribute it. If we're going to use it as a reference, it would be helpful so we can get through it all.
yeah, actually, Tina can get us copies.
Thank you. And then I'll just say that I think the issue is here, of course, we've got platinum level municipal lawyers here. So what they're doing is, as we all know, they've pulled together what they think is the best of the best. I guess I'd suggest here in terms of composition, I'm not sure design of the detention pond will be design that we can't use. Things like trademarks will be the logo and the use of the District of Machosen materials other than for district business. So I think this is just completeness. If one wants to cut it back, then we would need to either just choose a different one that works and then see if our lawyers are happy with it. But I probably wouldn't overrule our lawyers, but rather ask them why is it different and is there any benefit, and if not, I'd go with Sydney's.
Yeah, Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, we could do that, and it would cost us more money on lawyers. And I think one of the exercises that we're doing here today is actually going through what the lawyers have actually presented to us. So I would like to hear what all of my colleagues have to say on this.
Okay. Let's when you get the bylaw in your hand, you can see item number 29 from the Sydney's employment of council family members. What struck me in number 30, a council member shall not attempt to influence personnel decisions regarding decision to hire, transfer, promote, advisory board member or staff. Well, that's exactly what we do. We do. I guess that's when you get a lawyer to, but they don't exactly understand how advisory boards are set up and nominated. So that is actually contrary to how we appoint advisory board members. Councillor Eck?
Yeah, there's something, I did underline it, but I can't remember exactly where it was, where it talks about paying advisory boards, the same kind of thing. So it doesn't really fit with our advisory boards.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I agree.
Greg? Agree. Okay.
Thank you.
And then gifts. The community charter in section 106 is very clear, 106 and 105 I think is very, very clear in terms of what gifts can be accepted and the amount up to $250. Does anybody have any questions about that? There's a requirement for disclosure, the nature of other gifts, the records are kept. Yeah. No, go ahead. Councillor Schuch and then Councillor Epp.
The section 35 talks about, if you get a gift and you provide the documentation, it asks for full names and addresses of at least 2 individuals who are directors of the corporation. So if you're talking about, you know, however unlikely this may be, you get a gift from Fortis, say, or a major corporation.
Okay.
The directors, you may not have any access to them. So it might be the directors or representatives of the corporation. I just,
It seems far-reaching to me,
yeah,
but.
well, it's a reach to maybe get those 2 signatures. So, and it could just be modified with directors of the corporation or appropriate representatives. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor F.
Well, yeah, seeing as I'm sitting here waiting with my BC Lottery Corporation pen, I'm just wondering about when we go to the AVICC or the UBCM, you know, they have tables of stuff. And I mean, I think it's great, but maybe it comes under, kind of lists under that. So I don't know if you go to something like that, if it's okay, or it's kind of a fine line.
Yeah, if you look at Community Charter 105 and 106, the gift is up to $250. So it's a nice pen, but not too nice. And you know, I think it's important that we can. If you need a pen at a conference, you would get a pen. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about gifts, presumably to influence your decision-making ability or your decisions in the future. One would think. I think that's what they're getting at. Councillor Gray.
And I think what Councillor Schutten is talking about, this is in relation to the disclosing gifts, you know, from corporate world in relation to things, tying it back to donations and who gets someone elected. Much more material, I think, in a city like Vancouver, Victoria, or Toronto. This is simply ask the names and addresses, which presumably you can get on the website, you know, who's the corporation. If you get a gift of more than $250, you just need to look it up and put the names of 2 directors of the corporation there. I don't think you have to get their signatures or anything like that.
Fair.
So just a point of information to assist, I think, in investigations that might occur by the elections people and that sort of thing. I don't oppose what's written there under 35 at the moment. And to Councillor Donaldson's point of view, rather than bouncing around checking with the legal person, I'd probably just leave it as it is and take it off the website if you need to.
Councillor Schuppen.
Yeah, and I it's a good point. Sorry, I did think there was. Yeah. Okay.
The only problem with that is directors come and go. If you name,
Yeah.
you know, well, I guess presidents can come and go too.
Yeah. But I don't think this relates to election donations, though. It's just
No.
seems to be outside of that stream as well. So.
Totally, I just think it probably circles back to that question of gifts from who, and corporations, people can hide behind. That was a big issue in the elections, changes that were already made. Didn't mean to muddy the waters. No signatures required. It seems we can leave it alone without any additional cost to the district.
Okay.
Collection and handling of information. So this is also in the community charter about confidential information regarding resolutions personal information that they have obtained here, not to be released. I think that is fairly straightforward as well. The community charter is very straightforward when it comes to the misuse of confidential information. I see people reading. You're okay with this bit? Okay. And one of the many other municipalities in our region, in the capital region, are also struggling with the code of conduct, and where they are getting held up is at the social media. Either they don't have one like Sydney, or they have one that's not, doesn't have enough teeth in it. And this is something that I think we should discuss, whether this one is adequate, I certainly thought that number 46 is going to be very difficult. The council member shall take steps to remove from their social media account any publication by another person of content that violates this bylaw. I think that one's going to be hard to do. Certainly if it's on your feed, you can delete it, but you have to monitor it. Go ahead, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to explain that. I'm not sure what's hard about it.
Well, well, you could miss it. For instance, if you're not on social media every day, you could miss it. Yeah, I think it's very easy to miss. Go ahead.
No, and I think the action here is shall take steps to remove. I mean, the steps you would take is to notify the person and request that they remove it. Yeah, no, I see the point here.
It would be hard to prove as well. I mean, if you did try to and they didn't,
Yeah,
and you were questioned, it would be hard to prove that you made efforts.
yeah.
Except for it's, I presume this is your own social media, so if you posted something and somebody has commented, you have the ability to go in and delete the whole post or delete the individual comments.
Yeah.
It's just difficult. Anybody else have anything else with this?
No, there's a challenge too. I mean, if there are multiple people, if it's an ongoing issue, and maybe the onus is on one councillor or another for one reason or another. So, yeah, no, that's, I guess I can sort of see the sense of it, in that you don't want a council member who knows something is in violation of the bylaw to just be passive about it. So I can see the onus on taking action. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gray.
I just offer that I think Councillor Shugan's put his finger on it. You've got something that's inappropriate on your feed. You'll take steps to remove it. It's just a request that you do that, and presumably if you send an email or something or respond and say please take it off, you've taken the steps that would be appropriate. And you'd want to get it off there too, so you'd have both wanting to get it off and then taking steps, and you'd meet that clause, it seems to me. I guess it's recognizing you may not be able to remove it.
Okay. Councillor?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think if you're on council and you are using social media, that's, it's just another responsibility that you need to be aware of and look after.
Okay, moving on to the communication protocol. This moves into the public and the media section as well. So the number 47, does anybody have any issues or changes with this one?
So on a practical and actually lived basis, so I've been contacted, I think, twice by local media about the buffer land and the buffer land working group, and I duly responded. Councillor Epp was contacted about the ag plan, and sorry, Councillor Donaldson, and we respond.
And you also you notified me, right?
Well, with the buffer land, I don't think I did, especially the second time.
Okay.
And again, I think there's more of a, if you kind of know it's your thing, and the nature of the media or the inquiry is a basic one, I guess in those cases, my thought was go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just wondering now if this adds sort of a level of, check in with the mayor, which I'm not opposed to doing. It's just, yeah. I actually, the way I think 48, 49, and 50 are worded seem appropriate and good to me. Again, I'm just wondering if there's a sort of a what the process should be for a check-in, or like, for example, again with the buffer land or with the ag plan, did we formally appoint me as a spokesperson or Councillor Donaldson as a spokesperson, or is it implied? So, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but yeah. And again, wondering if there's a hiccup in this, and if somebody wanted to be, you know, make use of this, if this gives them, yeah, if it's, yeah, a complication maybe we don't need, so.
Councillor Johnson, then Ann.
It is a good point, not to assume, but I think when it is your assigned portfolio, it falls in line. However, as we see on the very last statement there, where who the actual spokesperson for the district is, as in the case when there's anything to do with, say, a breakout from the prison. So that is more, that's a bigger thing, right? If there was a tsunami warning, it would be yourself or the fire chief, or those would be the spokespeople. I wouldn't feel obliged or at all interested. I'd say there's somebody else that would do that. So I think that that's where I understand it. But the ag, maybe Councillor Eck wanted to talk about ag plan, which she probably would refer that
Yeah,
to
I
me,
would think
because
she
she would
would
know
re-
who would have
I
the
think she would
information.
reply to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if it was something to do with public works, you would refer it to, it's actually just courteous.
Right.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead, Shuka.
Would it work, and again, this is a question, I'm not sure if this is the right answer, but adding in a line that says, council members may address media inquiries when the matter is related to an item in there or a matter in their portfolio. And the answer is may, and again, it's specific to the portfolio. So, thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Councillor.
I think that works. It follows along what we're doing already.
Yeah.
And then the issue would be not so much checking back with the mayor, but as it reads, it's back to council if there's some big problem and you think, gosh, should I answer this or not? Or maybe it's too hot to talk about and you want to talk to people. By all means, bring it back and bring it to council and ask.
Yeah.
But I think it works. The issue really, though, is that the mayor's on all the big issues, frankly. He needs to be, as Councillor Johnson said.
Yeah, as long as we have an understanding that even though Public Works has something to do with trails, Councillor Eck would lobby that to Councillor Shuken. Same with the agricultural plan. If it was something you thought it was overlapping with the parks and trails, you would courteously give Councillor Donaldson a call to talk about the agricultural plan and the request from the media.
Which I think is actually what
That's
happened. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I think what's relevant here too is we're talking about a spokesperson, which is different than, you'll see it in the newspaper all the time, councillors in Victoria are speaking on issues that are relaying their personal views on issues. They're not saying, I am here standing for the district. When you did the bufferland, when I read it, I thought we were speaking for all of us. Likewise, Councillor Donaldson, I thought, yep, you're speaking for all of us. But you're just as welcome to speak about something in your personal, this doesn't limit you from saying, well, I have a special perspective that I want to let people know about. And you can do that too.
Councillor Shuken.
And to Councillor Gray's point, this does not limit us in speaking to the media if the opportunity comes, but it does give some guidance in terms of what you might, how to kind of frame those comments. So I think it's, except for that one little, again, real life question about how to address these informal or some media inquiries, I think this section's good. So, yeah.
And if we could add the language you gave us there, Councillor Shuken, that does it.
What was the language that you used, Councillor Shuken?
Well, it probably can be improved, but it was something to the effect of council members may address media inquiries when the matter raised is within their portfolio.
Okay.
Or specific to their portfolio.
More specific is better. Matter is raised is specific. Yeah.
And we might be, let staff play with, we're going to have a few of those probably about time sorting out the best wording.
And then the interactions with the public and the media, number 47 to 50. Pretty straightforward.
That was 47, right?
Yeah.
You were just talking about.
Yeah, 47, this is 49, 50. And then it goes to the orientation and training attendance. It's a little bit goofy, but that's okay with me. Everybody should attend these sessions unless it's not practically possible. Okay. Now, moving to page 21, the process for complaints. We're getting into, if there is an issue, how does one go about lodging a complaint? One thing that I don't see here is that whoever is running the investigation, the investigator, the commission, it's called the commissioner here, the investigator should have the ability to stop the evaluation or the complaint at any, given their perusal of the complaint. They should, at any step, they should be able to close it. And that was recommended at the CRD and by lots of other people, just so that we don't go through long, drawn-out investigations, and the investigators say, well, we're going to stop this right at the very beginning, right? So I think that needs to be worked in there, as well as the word commissioner really came out of the blue for me there in number 56. So it doesn't really define how the commissioner is appointed. Is this from a roster of mediators? Where does this commissioner come from? So
Very
it's
little.
twice on that page. Go ahead.
That actually threw me as well, but I did go back to the definitions, and it is there. I was surprised. Yeah,
Okay.
I was wondering about that myself. So it simply means the individual appointed by council from time to time on retainer to participate in a formal complaint process in accordance with the bylaw. So
Okay. And it does it say who appoints the commissioner? So this is in the CAO's hands. And when does it get punted over to a commissioner?
If we read through the document, so I think you're at the formal review now, talking about what the commissioner needing to stop at any time. That's at 67. But earlier, this other material doesn't involve a commissioner just yet. So these are all the words from 53 up to 67 are building towards, if you don't solve it beforehand, in other words, and dispense with the issue. So I think your comment about the commissioner can stop anytime would come somewhere once the commissioner is appointed. But then the issue of what happens beforehand and how they get appointed is dealt with from 53 to 67. So you'll see it, upon receipt of a complaint, the commissioner shall at 69. So that's where you started getting into what does a commissioner do?
I guess the I was confused by in number 54, the CAO can agree to act as the advisor to aid in the complainant or appoint an advisor as the chief administrative officer deems suitable. So an advisor, that's not really the commissioner, that's an extra person. But I guess there should be something in here where the CAO assigns or the council assigns the commissioner.
So we could take it clause by clause, but 54, that's the CAO who says, tell you what, I'll be an advisor. So they get to give the complainant, it says, and the next clause, the advisor acting under section 54 shall assist the complainant, including discussing the contravention. So they're just trying to help them get it sorted out. You know, maybe it'll go away as you say, oh gosh, that's not a complaint, there's a complaint. So that advisory role's there until you go a little bit further along. If the complaint's not satisfied, working through the advisor, the complainant may proceed to mutual resolution by filing a written record of the allegation with the commissioner. And then you go to 67 or 69 where the commissioner receives the complaint.
Mr. Pyatt, you had something to add?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So it does indicate individual steps to resolution, so we could maybe clarify it by indicating that there's, looks like 4 steps. We can just put the step in there.
I wonder,
So, does that sound reasonable?
point of order, Bob should come up to the microphone so we can get on the system.
You want to come to the microphone to say that?
Sure. I was just saying, Mayor, that we could, it says steps in the subject heading, so we could indicate the steps that they were alluding to there in this sort of step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of format, and that should clear that up.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, anything else for voters? That's okay with you. Councillor, did you have anything on page 21 that you wanted to address? No. Okay. And then on page 22, mutual resolution. The steps to the mutual resolution process refers back to, or refers to number 61 here, the role of the mediator. Okay, so we've got an advisor, we've got a commissioner, and we've now got a mediator mentioned here. I guess that would be more of a neutral body as opposed to somebody that was assigned to assist the complainant. Okay. Anything that you would like to add to that? No? And other processes, failing mutual resolution of breach of the bylaw can be determined for the purposes of proceeding with the council under section 73 by way of admission, agreement, and a formal review. Okay, and then we move on to the complaints section.
Just a point there, and this will happen as the draft develops, but under 65, the references to sections 69 and 70 are incorrect. But at the end, this can be gone through to make sure all the sections refer to the correct sections.
Yeah, I was wondering whether we needed number 66 because this document is not meant to overlap with any others, so that the respectful workplace policy is a policy in itself. I'm not sure if this is necessary, but I'm fine with it being there. Yeah, okay. Okay, and then moving on to the formal review process. And it refers back to, it was 55 through 61 of the bylaw, and the steps to proceed with a formal complaint. And the time that you can have this formal complaint. Go ahead.
And I think this here is where we would add that point about the commissioner could stop it at any time. I'm not sure where it would fit in terms of clauses, but I think it's a good point you're making.
Yeah, I guess we would make that as just before the council determination of measures, or at the very beginning, the very end, or probably the very end after 72, so that the I guess it would be the commissioner. Yes, the commissioner shall, maybe F, rather, 70F, the commissioner shall have within their authority to stop an investigation at any point. Go ahead.
And I think this would have to, I don't know what the words are exactly, but you're wanting to satisfy the complainant at that point. So I think the commissioner, having accepted it, does need to work through to a point where, oh, it looks like we've solved the problem. All the way along, that seems to be the process. So I guess it's if the commissioner working with the complainant makes that determination. Very good. I'm just not sure legally how that works, but once you've invoked the commissioner, I think you still have to have interchange with the complainant.
Mary,
Yeah, go ahead.
in terms of that provision that the commissioner can stop at any time, I would suggest it's probably not best in either section 70 as an F. It might actually come as part of 73, or just a new section 73. Section 70 is all about procedural fairness, and probably those provisions should be kept. And then it can be its own thing maybe at the end.
Yeah.
And again, this is all subject, I think, to legal counsel saying it's okay. Just a general comment, what I found interesting in reviewing all the codes of conduct is they can be of different, amounts of text, but once you get to the process part, there's a lot of material, and no one seems to kind of short that. So it's interesting.
Okay, so let's consider introducing that point at number 73, or before number 73 here, so it would become number 73. So council determination of measures, so this is council determining what appropriate measures, if any, if someone was to contravene this bylaw, and the factors that one should consider in doing so. It seems and then I noted that number 75, I think this should be exactly what is in the appendix as well. They should match each other. On page 31, it should match what it says on page 25 in item number 75, just so we're consistent. Okay, and then staff responsibilities in the complaint process. Any comments? Okay, and then we've got fairness procedures applicable to council determination of measures. If these sections only apply if the complaint is not resolved under the previous section 53 to 62. This is getting sort of complicated, but necessary. I'll just give you a minute to go through that one big paragraph in 83.
Sure, and just again, reference to section 90 is incorrect at 83. I think it's supposed to be 87. The very last sentence was section 87 or 88.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have
Just
to
a
go,
drafting.
somebody's going to have to go through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure all the sections are correctly referenced. And mandatory training. And if the recommendation is that there's training necessary for the council member, that the council attend the training that is recommended by the commissioner. And there's some one paragraph regarding obstruction. that would be a contravention. And then this, next is the legal fees, who pays for what, and what is a council member's recourse for reimbursement of reasonable legal fees. I noticed that some of the other codes of conduct say up to $10,000. It's not, the amount claims does not exceed $10,000. And that's in section 70 of the Sydney on page 11. We might want to consider that, because legal fees, as you know, could go sky high. Councillor Schuker.
Sorry, just paragraph 87. Is meritorious the right word here? I mean, it might be just simplified to say has merit. Sorry, I hate to quibble around a word, but anyways, it might be just something to, I think there's an easier way of saying it.
If the complaint was founded?
Yeah, could be, or has merit even.
Okay, has merit.
Yeah, and maybe this is the right word, I just kind of trips me up when I don't, maybe it doesn't need to, maybe a simpler way to say that.
Justified.
Yeah, justified almost says there's a judicial, ruling one or the other, but merit, I mean, merit means maybe there's enough of it to go ahead. Maybe that's what meritorious is trying to get at too. There's enough information that it'll take a closer look.
Let's go to 88 then. Fees reasonably incurred if a council member is subjected to the procedures set out in this bylaw. Yeah, it doesn't say they will be, it just council may reimburse a council member. Sorry, go ahead.
So who makes that decision?
The council.
Okay.
It says, council may reimburse a council member. A majority vote, presumably. Okay. And then general, the corporate officer will cause this bylaw to be visible, accessible, electronic copies made available. And that's it. Okay. And then we've got the Schedule A, the notice to the council member of council consideration of a breach of the council member conduct bylaw. I already mentioned on page 31, the I should reflect what it says in the bylaw itself.
I took a look at that. They match.
Did they match? I thought one of them was out.
The difference is that one on page 31 says referral to a Crown prosecutor, and then it adds referral to police for an investigation are two separate items in this list, whereas they're combined in the other list, but each of the items is included.
Okay. CEO Payette, did you want to have any comments so far? No? You can chime in when you want. Yeah, okay. Okay, so then let's go back. Councillor Schuker and Councillor Gray, you had some comments regarding wording earlier on. Did you want to go through your list, Councillor? Yeah.
Yeah, I could just start on page 1, or page 9 of the document, or page 1 of the agenda, page 1 of the document. The definition of advisory body member means a person sitting on an advisory board and includes a council member appointed to the board. the word advisory board is used throughout the document and is not actually defined. And I wonder if it, I'm just wondering about that. It's just a question for the drafters.
You know what, I didn't hear you, if you could explain that again, sorry.
Just a question for the drafters. At the bottom of page 9, advisory body member means a person sitting on an advisory board and includes a council member appointed to the body. The words advisory board are used throughout the document, but advisory board is not defined. And so I'm just saying that needs to be looked at by the drafters.
So a definition for advisory board. Actually, we have advisory committees. We don't really have advisory boards except for the commissions, the CRD, the CRD board, but the water commissions, right? They're not.
So the words advisory body earlier mean a committee, task force, commission. So committee is caught. It's just the use of the board. I just wondered if there's a drafting issue there for our lawyers.
Okay. Okay.
So then, speaking to the page 13 for clauses 8 till 12, we've met. I think this is our 5th time to meet to look at the bylaw, and so on maybe 4 of those times or 3 of those times, it was mentioned that clauses 8 to 12 were giving heartburn to members of council, and so I had the opportunity to look at the work that you're doing, Mayor Little, at the CRD, and I went back and thought just to help the discussion today, I could, pull apart the information in the documents at the CRD level to see, well, what do the clauses look like elsewhere? Because it may just be a question of switching them, as Councillor Don suggested, switching up the Sydney one on clause 29, I think it was. Same thing might happen here. So I also went back earlier today and I looked, I think you had sent us in June, Mayor Little, the original version of this document from your lawyers, and the only difference was clause 11. So 8, 9, 10, and 12 are all in the original version from the lawyers, but still, if you wanted to change them, I just had a look to see. It might be that you would choose to take 2 of the clauses from another district instead of just one of them, but I gave alternate wording in case there was concern. But all of these issues are picked up just with different language in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I particularly like the Sydney, the Sydney item number 13. Members shall direct inquiries regarding departmental issues or questions to the CEO. It was very clear. And also CAO Payette flagged that as well in your pinks.
To which item are you looking at? Which clause are you?
Look on your pink there, number 13.
Yeah.
This is interaction with staff.
So that would replace which clause?
That would be number 8. To switch out number 13 for number 8.
Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
So, thank you very much for actually, because it was you that flagged the Sydney Code of Conduct, which I did review, and I thought it was well done. But I have to say, I actually like number 8 as written, having given it some more thought.
Mm-hmm.
And the big change between 13 and Sydney
Mm-hmm.
and number 8 here is that a council member will not issue instructions or directions to staff. Whereas the Sydney version talks about questions and inquiries.
Mm-hmm.
So they're 2 different. Now, I will confess that there are times when I have gone to certain members of staff who I know, and I've asked them, so what do you think of the parking situation? Or what do you expect to get out in the plows tonight? Or what are you doing? How are things? And these questions come just casually because maybe you've known that person for a number of years. So I'm troubled by the fact that you might be in trouble by, I think the big thing is issuing instructions or directions as opposed to asking questions.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we have to be mature and those who come after us, we have to hope that they are as well. And so questions of a substantive nature
Mhm.
most definitely should go through the CAO.
Yeah, so
So-
giving direction, giving instructions.
Yeah.
I see your point,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I mean, I wouldn't mind hearing from Mr. Pyatt if he would be concerned about that.
Mhm.
But that was the big difference between the two. And I because we're such a small district,
Mhm.
because, we can know almost everybody here. And practically, it's really challenging to not be able to ask them
Mhm.
basic questions from time
Right,
to
and
time.
having those as a council liaison to an advisory committee, it muddies the waters a little bit because other districts, like Sydney, they don't have those kind of
Mhm.
structures. Council Donaldson, then CAO Pyatt.
Yeah, I'm not sure how this fits, but when I read what you're talking about here with Sydney, where it says shall refrain from comment from staff directly unless the communication is minor and for the purpose of seeking administrative clarity. Actually, I like that because that is about the only time I actually have communication with staff, because it's Tina will ask, can you look at your agenda, is there everything you need there? And there'll be some back and forth, or Jennifer will be the same sort of thing with scheduling and that sort of stuff. So there's never specific direction other than, yes, that's good, or, I'll ask questions, but I don't really want to not be able to talk to the staff and have to go through the CAO for those minor day-to-day things, those administrative, it's just seeking administrative clarity on things.
So what you'd like at number 8, you would like added to the end of the sentence, or the appropriate department manager, unless the communication is minor and of a day-to-day operational nature. How does that sit with everybody? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure that works. The way I respond to Councillor Donaldson is 8 as written does not stop you from having those conversations. So in
Shall
other words,
not issue
instructions or directions. So I think these clauses largely are just about distinguishing it's the CEO who's in charge, not us. And we issue directions to the single employee, the CAO. But you can have conversations with people till the cows come home. Except they may ask you to leave the stat. But it's really telling them what to do. That's not our job.
Well, no, I think it goes beyond that. Until the cows come home, mean you could have hours and hours of conversation. I mean, we
No.
have to have specific
No.
instructions that council members don't spend hours and hours of the planner's time, for instance. That wouldn't be acceptable either.
No, what I mean to me is trivial matters.
Councillor Eck.
It was
Oh, yeah. Mr. Eck. Yeah, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Gonna get my exercise for sure. Thanks, Mayor, through the council. So I do like this Sydney approach, and Councillor Donaldson's comments I thought were good as well. Is that there's CAO, then there's department managers, and then there's staff. I would really prefer if council, didn't direct questions to staff necessarily, unless it's just like a casual type question, but direct their technical questions to the CAO, and then sort of the department managers or supervisors, not as a habitual kind of process, but if I wasn't here, it would make sense to be able to talk to second heads on questions. But any decision making obviously would be CAO.
Councillor Gray.
So through the chair, Mr. Pyatt, it seems to me that there's sort of two issues here. So the 8 as written is saying that the council member doesn't issue instructions to staff. The number 13 in Saanich is about not about directions and instructions, it's about questions, saying questions go to the CAO. So we can have both clauses would get us there, I think. We don't want to, our point is, the point of 8 is that it's you who's in charge of the staff, not us.
That's right.
Point 13 is don't talk to the staff too much, please. Bring the questions to you if they're material.
Great.
So we could add 13 in, I think is where I would go with that comment.
Yeah, I was just wondering on that, like I also like number 13, and maybe with the addition that Councilor Gray mentioned. Because one thing I was wondering about on the number 8 was when it says appropriate department manager. Like in Metchosin, we have such a small staff, and I'm not sure exactly how you would define department manager in Metchosin. It's just different, so that I don't think that should be in there actually, because that just doesn't fit the district.
So that it would be full stop at chief administrative officer.
Well, I like the Sadiga number 13 one.
That would replace number 8.
Yeah, with the addition that Councillor Gray mentioned.
Mary Lou.
Yeah. go
Sorry, one more time, Councillor Gray, what you added?
Well, I was saying if people like 13, then you would add it. But 8 would stay because 8 is about distinguishing the role between council and the CAO. So 8 says you don't instruct or give, the council members don't instruct or give directions to staff regarding district business. So that's the issue of the CAO's in charge.
Yeah, and
The second issue is,
to Councillor Eck's point, it would be an end stop at chief administrative officer.
yeah, I mean, that one could do that. I mean, I think our departments are, whether or not you can speak to the fire chief without Bob, or whether you can talk to, I guess, our deputy corporate officer without Bob. Without Mr. Potter. What I've been doing up to this point with our interim CAO is copying her on everything. So she knows if I've asked a question of anybody informally about really any issue. It means a lot of emails, but it means that person, the CEO, then knows everything that's going on in terms of your communication. Anyway, whatever, if we take it out, then it sort of reduces our ability to speak to people who are at the department manager level, which I would suggest would be our fire chief, DCO, and perhaps Public Works now that there's the supervisor there. But again, maybe Mr. Pike could speak to that.
It seems that Mr. Pike would like number 13 in. I think we should honor that. I think it's a great suggestion from Councillor Eck to strike out the department managers in number 8. And that's pretty clear. Instructions or directions to staff regarding district business through the CAO. Councillor Eck?
Yeah, I do. As you mentioned before, number 13 does make note that the communication, if it's minor or for the purpose of seeking administrative clarity. So basically that leaves it open that we can still go and ask Public Works a question, but we can't start telling them to go, dig a ditch on Lawn.
I agree. I see that now. Thank you.
Okay. So moving to number 11, all requests for opinions from government agencies. The only problem that I have with this is when we were doing the agricultural forum, I did have conversations with ministry representatives, and that was outside of the CAO, and mind you, it was an open forum, so it was, and they were there. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I think we've missed, we're on 11.
Oh, I jumped to 11.
Yeah.
But, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's go to 9, 10,
Sure.
and then we'll go to
Okay.
11. Yeah. Did you have any comments regarding 9?
Thank you. Yes, I do.
About that?
Okay, now number 9, I was really challenged by this because it's a really wordy way of saying that a council member can't talk to proponents or service providers at all. So it's like before, during, and after procurement process.
Mhm.
Now, for example, when we hired the firm to do the climate action plan, they're a service provider, a contractor. And I mean, I was involved directly in that, but I imagine that there might be a reason to have a sit down with the company who's doing that.
Mhm.
So I just don't think I found this really sweeping. I did like actually, and thanks to Councillor Gray for pulling in some of these alternative wordings. Council members shall not instruct the city's contractors or service providers regarding city business. That's in Langford's code of conduct apparently. So short and sweet. But again, I still feel like there needs to be maybe a window where if you do a sit down with the service provider, who knows, maybe one day we get an advisor to look at the buffer land, for example. There should be an allocation for council to be involved in that and provide input, not direct, but provide input. So, yeah.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's similar to what number 13 was, Bob, where it's the communication is minor for the purpose of seeking administrative clarity. And I can think of a number of different situations. When we did a tour with the Hillebrands, but prior to them being there, I spoke to the construction fellow and he gave me kind of an update and I asked questions, more information seeking. Another one is when Mr. Harold Parapulkin used to do our trails, and now it's Mr. Benson. And so, if I was out on the trail, which I often am, and they were working on a section that I often traverse, I would, comment and say, so what is the kind of footing? Those are minor things to be absolutely, not being able to talk. I don't know if I'd be in a capacity as a counselor, but I would always be assumed as in the capacity as counselor because my whole citizenship seems to be different now. So I would not want to, I guess, it wouldn't be communication as to giving them instruction on what they're doing or that they should do it a different way. But I like the idea, the ability to be able to actually speak to these individuals.
Mm-hmm. So Councillor Gray, probably you would agree, given that you had talked to the climate action plan contractor, it might have been difficult if you weren't allowed to.
Yeah, I only spoke to him with Catherine, with our staff person, actually a contractor. Only did that with her. Otherwise, communicated several times by email, again copying Catherine and Susan into those communications. So I don't know if that experience helps too much, but I'm with what Councillor Shupin is saying. I think the point here is, or the difficulty really is that, again, it's about council not taking the role of directing people who we have a contract with. That's for the CAO and the staff to do. And so whatever wording we choose to do, that is good with me. And the one that we have on the paper, I don't know why our lawyers have written it as they have. If you look at the difference between the Langford one and the Vancouver one, in the two that I scooped out of the CRD work, Vancouver's a bit longer. A member must not instruct or direct any of the city's contractors, tenders, consultants, or other service providers regarding city business. It seems to me it's the same as the Langford one, which is shortened to city's contractors or service providers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm open to any of that. I think it's just the same idea, distinguishing our role. We're not in charge of those things. We're in charge of vision, direction, but all the work is over to the CEO's table.
Councillor Beck.
Well, I think it's okay, but I think it could be, we could add, just as we did is on number 13, is that an addition on the bottom could be the communication minor and the clarity part could be added to that, and that kind of covers it. It just covers that we're not supposed to be giving them direction, but you can go and see how they're making out what's happening.
I like that.
Thank you. That was what I was trying to suggest.
Okay, good that we're all on the same board. Number 10.
Sorry, one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would it work?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to. So is the view right now to keep 9? Is that what we're?
We're changing 9 to be either Langford or Vancouver with the added words, but certain communication minor and purpose of seeking administrative clarity makes sense.
Well, I see. So we're going to simplify it to include either Langford or Vancouver. They're almost identical.
Yeah.
And then add the unless part. Is that right?
I think it. Yeah. No, so I was wondering about adding one qualifier. And again, it might go something like this. This provision does not exclude council from providing input. To a service. Sorry, I know that doesn't make sense. But the one thing I just want to say though, so for example, the guys who did the climate action plan, they come in, we do provide them with some input, and then they go away and do their work. So it's happening. And I mean, for the survey, for example, we might have provided them, well, maybe not, but maybe not in that case. But I think we do provide input to our contractors, or even again, sitting in on a meeting with Peanut, for example. So again, it's probably not all that common, but even with the like the advisory group that managed the gym renovations, I'm betting they met with the contractor. So,
No, we didn't actually.
okay.
Not
Yeah.
through the CAO.
Okay. But sorry, fire hall steering committee, probably nothing like that yet. Like not a.
No.
Okay. Yeah. I just don't want to exclude the fact that we might, on a minor level, engage a contractor in very specific things. So.
Well, go ahead.
As the health committee, but even before that, although I'm sure we did that with Line Story when we were consulting with them in the healthy communities. Remember, we were doing all the community engagement, so we were well, I'm going to say we, because I was in council, but yourself was a councillor, and I think you were involved with that. We have a subcommittee right now with the ag
Yeah,
plan.
I wasn't involved in that though. It was just,
Okay, it was somebody else.
just a.
Just the subcommittee.
Just
So I'm on a subcommittee right now with the ag, and we are consulting with the person that's been hired to help us put together the ag plan.
Yeah.
Then it goes up the reporting structure. So the interim CAO was involved with that to this point until today. So the CAO will now be part of that communication as well. So that's just one of the examples I think that's recent.
Yeah.
Councillor Grant?
Well, that sounds like if the CEO is there, then it's all good because you're all discussing it together.
But the CAO hasn't been at those meetings.
So I guess that's probably where we might look at how we're doing things generally and say that it's really the staff who should be engaging a contractor or whoever, and they would be involved, and we instruct the staff rather than the advisory committee running a contract for us. I don't know if it's in their terms of reference to do that sort of thing.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so it is the farmers that are giving specific instruction regarding the RFP.
Yeah, all of that has tied in emails with the interim CAO, and yeah, even when we met in person, the interim CAO was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we pull stuff together, and then it goes out. Usually, it's in an email. Similar to what Councillor Gray has done with Peanut or with our planner as the contractor. And having that second set of eyes goes directly back to the CAO.
Right. Right. And so it's really specific instructions or direction from an individual council member to staff or consultants, and really it's a matter of courtesy that the CAO would be involved and looped in so that they're not, no surprises are the best surprises, I think. Is correct.
Well, in that circumstance, once the contract's done, it's really the CAO who's in charge of the contract, so they want to be fully aware of what's going on in any of the circumstances because they're responsible for the results.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I like the simplicity of the Langford statement,
Yeah.
which is really direct in terms of instruct, which I clearly see. My concern is that just the nature of this community is such that there may be some interactions, and to disallow those might just, shut down a process that we agree on. And I would say the ag plan is probably the best example. So I just wonder if there's a way to qualify this, but again, even, yeah,
If you want to qualify it, you go back to number 9.
yeah, okay, sorry. Okay. But number 9 also says, yeah, outside of the council committee meeting. Yeah, no, you're right, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Either have
Do
an
you think-
overarching simplification
Yeah.
like Langford, or if you want to qualify it.
Great, thank you, yeah.
It depends, it's the will of the council. I'm fine either way, just not both.
Okay, could we hybrid the first sentence in Langford's and then the second sentence in ours? Because again, what you say is right, Mayor Little, outside of a council or committee meeting, fair enough. It's council or committee meeting. Although it might even be a meeting with staff as well. So as we did with Pina, I would be fine with that. And I think it addresses, the potential of us, of this actually being something that we miss productivity and good input and council direction, so again, city ad committee
Okay.
or climate action plan.
What does other council members think of that, the hybrid?
I think we should get it drafted and take a look at it. Sounds good.
Okay.
I mean, from my perspective, it's simply the idea that we can't cut the CAO out. That person is the key person. So when I look at I didn't quite understand what the Ag Committee, how it's working, but the CEO is in charge of that. And if he's happy with it, then we're happy with it. If he says, no, I want this done differently, then it's his job to do that. And we can say to him, I don't like how this is going, you need to help out or whatever, but through him or whomever.
Okay, so let's put that in a draft, a hybrid of Langford's for the first sentence, and then this Machosen for the second one. Okay, number 10, shall not interfere with, hinder, obstruct staff or volunteer advisory board in exercise or performance of their role, responsibility, powers, duties, or functions. Not interfere or hinder or obstruct.
So this is a problematic section for the big reason that we serve as members of essentially the advisory boards, health communities, ag, environment, and parks and trails. And my understanding with me, I'm a voting member of PTASC, and I think that's true with everybody. So that this makes this section quite challenging. And I'm almost wondering if we might even cut this. And I think that what I was going to say is cut number 10, because I thought we might see a change to number 8, but I think the two are quite related, and you might be able to cut 10. So.
Yeah, does anybody think about cutting 10? That would be volunteers are not mentioned before, interfere with
Can I-
volunteers.
Sorry.
To jump in, I would suggest replacing it with 14, Sydney, which doesn't include volunteers. It's a bit longer, but I get why it's longer, but I think it just limits it to staff. And then you get the sentiment in there. It's in all the other ones I checked anyway, something similar.
Yeah,
So Sydney looks pretty good.
so instead of number 10, it'd be 14 from Sydney.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, the other thing, like the basic, we help with volunteering in the chosen days, that we're seen as, direct volunteers.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, 14.
Okay.
Thanks.
And that's okay, Councillor Etheridge and Donaldson, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, good. And then coming up to number 11, for opinions from government agencies, lawyers and other experts will be conducted through the CA alone, and not by individual members. Go ahead.
I think this one is quite challenging. A number of us, in fact, I think everybody maybe now has been to a workshop on stormwater management, for example, where you're taking advice and ideas and thinking and taking notes and all that sort of thing. So this one's a challenging one, I think, too. I think the key for me, though, is remembering the CO is the council's one employee, and back to that same spot. And the one that I think makes a difference for us particularly, if we want to get sort of the same information, so if we collect up some information from a government agency or an idea that you think is worthy of, different if you're doing it with your advisory committee, you're trying to get it sorted at the advisory committee level, but once you come to council, you should bring that information along if it's material to our discussion, so we all have the same paper to work with. The tricky part for me is the lawyer question, because we've debated that before. I just think with our legal costs and things and the role of the CAO, that's the person who gets the legal advice for us and brings it back. We had a special circumstance where we moved away from that, but in general, I would say that that particular advice needs to come through the CAO, or the lawyers are here, speak to us all together so we get the same advice. So I can look, you can see some examples, section 11, and any of the replacements would work for me, including Sydney's. Sydney's reads, significant information provided to any member of council which is likely to be used in council or political debate should also be provided to all other council officials and to the CAO. I kind of guess that idea that we'd share information.
Where's that one?
It's on page 5 of the agenda package. The notes I've taken from the CRD website.
And then where's the city one?
Top of page 5. Oh, sorry, Sydney one. Sorry, that was Saanich, excuse me. I'm getting Saanich and Sydney mixed up.
I like that one as well as Saanich example.
I just had one question about this one. So Councillor Gray is saying that we have one exception to this. We could end up in a situation where we have an exception again. And so no recourse to seek advice of a lawyer. And I think that it's important to have a window
Maybe
available.
we can get some direction from our CAO on this one regarding council's ability or mayor's ability to seek legal advice in special circumstances.
Oh, okay, I thought we were talking about the information still. So I'll just comment on the information from government agencies.
Mhm.
Sometimes government agents, they're not versed in local government, so they don't realize, who to talk to. They migrate to the mayor and give or discuss with the mayor significant issues or dates or whatever that's coming up. So we would think the mayor would share that information. My point is government agents don't necessarily know anything about local government, and they just will gravitate to the mayor. In my experience, fair enough, right? So
In fact, that's what they do.
Yeah.
Send it to the mayor.
Yeah.
And send it back to staff to distribute.
So our team would take the information and distribute right away. They're already doing that. We talked about that today already. So with the question about legal advice from council without CAO involvement, I think that's a risky prospect, unless in exceptional circumstances, such as potentially interim CAO scenarios. So other than that, I think CAO would have to be 100% involved with assessing legal advice for council.
So I agree, but it wasn't council, it was the mayor that was required. Because of exceptional circumstances.
For instance, as an example, hypothetical, that if it had something to do with the CEO, then I think that the mayor would be authorized to seek legal advice. Go ahead.
And the way we did that, I think, is the council authorized the situation. I think I think to the CRD, and would the chair of the CRD seek legal advice for the CRD? And the answer, I think, would be no. It's the staff who do that. It's a staff job.
Yeah, I very much agree that inquiries to lawyers, to legal counsel, do need to flow through the CAO, absolutely. But the way this is worded, it just, if there was an exceptional circumstance, it doesn't really leave any room for the mayor or a designate, and it would normally be the mayor. One of the ways of doing it, I'm not sure this addresses, a contingency or an eventuality, but the section could begin, except as authorized by council, all requests for opinions from government agencies, lawyers, or other experts. The other sort of room there is, again, for example, is a question on water or agriculture. Maybe there's room, to connect one of us. Deb Curran authored the Green Bylaws Toolkit. She's someone, people have said, oh, you should be in contact with her. And I've always hesitated, but again, it's reasonable because we're kind of lending ourselves to that sort of thing. So I just wonder if there is, again, a qualifier to this. I think it would have to be, again, or even under exceptional circumstances. So.
Well, I think that, if they have an official request for information or opinion, I think it should definitely go through the CAO. Minor things, that might be something different, and certainly anything to do with a lawyer or legal issues should go through the CAO. Because the CAO is the person who represents all of council. I just think it. The information just gets distributed equally then amongst everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, nodding your head, yes.
Well, sort of. Sorry. Again, I feel like I'm not contemplating running off to talk to a lawyer or an expert, but I feel like, again, we've had circumstances where we talk with people. So, for example, the person who's looking at the carbon credit situation for us, are they an expert? Maybe, maybe not. But again, there was direct communication there. Yeah. So again, I think anything to do with legal has to be an exceptional circumstance, and I'm fine to, again, have the CAO as the main route. It's just on a practical basis, are we going to be able to do that? Hopefully, yes. Yeah, and of course I agree with the CAO will report all opinions to council as a whole. So it's a good provision, absolutely. So.
Councillor Gray.
I think that it's reasonable in the size of the district we have to have some of these conversations. The problem I guess we run into is if we, it's a practical problem. We're so small. So with the example you just had, you just offered an example a moment ago, but it's hard to have the CO involved in all those discussions necessarily because you're just making a phone call and getting a quick idea of what's going on. Oh, it was the carbon credit. Maybe that was longer than a quick phone call.
Big oil fellow.
Yeah, he came to council.
But you had conversations with him before, right?
No legal advice. Simply, what's your program and come to council. Yeah. And I haven't spoken to Deb Kernan, and I'm hoping that I will, but that wouldn't be for legal advice. She's not functioning as a lawyer. She's functioning as an executive director of an organization at UFIC. But I'm pointing to Sanchez. Significant information provided to any member of council which is likely to be used in council or political debate should also be provided to all council. That just frees everyone up to have those conversations with people you want to talk to. But you're also bringing that back and saying, hey, a lot of what I heard is no use to any of us for not looking at it. This is really interesting and everybody should get a look at it. I think it's a good idea. But there's the Sanchez wording I'm just pointing to again. I'm not resolving the question with the lawyer, by the way.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that I'm okay with how it's written here. I'm not suggesting that councillors have access to lawyers at all. I was suggesting that the CAO and the mayor, given there could be an exceptional situation as we have found ourselves in already, certainly not councillors in that particular. As far as experts and stuff, yes, I understand with what the statement in Saanich has here, but it was the lawyer for legal advice, and then would be shared. That was the only query I was making there. That was it.
Well, maybe I'll jump in and respond to say that I think if we want to do that, then it would come at, as Councillor Schuken suggested, except as authorized by council, because it doesn't make sense to
That's I agree.
cut out the CEO in a conversation with the lawyer.
Okay, so then through the CAO and not by individual members, comma, unless authorized by council. Yes, we're on number 11 still?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Schuman.
Sorry, read me your thoughts.
Conducted or other experts will be conducted through the CAO, not by individual
Yes.
members, unless.
I can see that, yeah.
And where I'm objecting is that I think there's value in the kind of conversations that we're talking about here with, I guess, as government agencies or other experts, that we can go out and find out what we can, but come back and present it all to the council under the Saanich one. So I'm kind of moving to all requests for opinions from lawyers will be conducted through the CAO and not individual members, except as authorized. Significant information provided to any member of council which is likely to be used in council or political debate should be provided to all council officials and to the CAO. The CAO will, I guess the CAO will report opinions, legal opinions to council as a whole.
So,
So that's that's different, right?
but is it true what you're doing is you're segmenting the lawyer
Yes.
legal thing first, opinions?
Yeah, deal with that, because otherwise
Yeah.
we're kind of stuck in the things of not making the phone calls and getting it. I mean, we're all sort of checking with different people just to get background ourselves.
Councillor Bell?
I do believe that, say, in exceptional circumstances, if the mayor or one particular person is going to be the one speaking with the lawyers without the presence of the CAO, then I would like to have a transcript of that conversation brought to council at the next in-camera meeting.
That would be expensive.
Makes sense.
It could just be a recording.
We're not doing it particularly frequently. I mean, the only occasion we needed the lawyers in relation to hiring of a new CAO, and that's really the only exception I can imagine. So it wouldn't be particularly expensive, hardly occurred.
Anybody wish to comment on that?
Maybe comment on
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and through council. So the transcript would probably be a little more difficult, but the legal could provide a summary of the conversation, and then council could have a look at the summary of the conversation, which is typically what they'll provide anyways.
That would be fun. Okay, people are glancing at the clock, so let's continue on. Number 12 is the last one. No, number 12 is the last one of that.
So I'll just comment, I provided only one similar version from Surrey than what we have in 12, and that's because each of the bylaws are drafted differently. So it looks to me like our lawyers drafted the Surrey one as well because the format is the same. And if you change the format later, then you can change 12, but I think 12, some of the format later is dependent on 12.
Sorry, one more time.
This is a description of this clause 12 if you change what's beyond clause 12, then you might go back and change clause 12, but it fits this particular type of drafting of the detail, the way it's written. Although, we have the advisory board member here again, which is a bit tricky.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
I actually didn't have too many troubles with
12.
paragraph 12, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any issues with number 12?
No, I think it was okay.
Okay. Well, if it's not broken, let's not fix it. Then the conduct of council and advisory board meetings. Right. Okay, so I guess what it misses is that a council member won't direct the advisory board meetings unduly. So it says something about not being there, but council members shouldn't be directing the advisory board. They should be there as an advisor.
That's number 14, 13.
Yeah, 14.
Mayor Little, on the topic of advisory boards, there was one section that we talked about early on, and I thought that Ms. Hanson was out of the room. And it had to do with advisory board members. When you identified them, I forget what it was a good observation though. I think it was,
The
section 30.
definitions. The
Well-
definitions?
But maybe it was section 30. No, it was a council member shall not, okay, the section title was employment of council family members, but the sentence itself doesn't really say anything about family members. It says a council member shall not attempt to influence personnel decisions regarding the decision to hire, transfer, promote, demote, discipline, or terminate an advisory board member or staff. So it doesn't say appoint, I suppose, but it does say demote, discipline, or terminate. And as you point out, we have a role. These are our advisory boards or council appointed. So I just wanted to make sure that if Ms. Hanson heard that issue raised. Section 30, but
Section 30.
yeah. And in fact, there's one sentence here about not attempt to obtain a benefit from the district for a family member, but the title itself is employment of council family members, which is maybe needs to be reworded. So, yeah. Okay, sorry, I interrupted.
A benefit for employment. Yeah. In number 31, a council member shall not attempt to obtain a benefit or employment from the district for a family member. Yeah. And then as well as advisory body, a committee, a commission, task force in the definitions. I think we got that. Okay. Councillor Gatt.
Just speaking of definitions,
Yes.
sorry, I was only half listening, my apologies. Was the definition of volunteer, a person serving in the district who is not a council member, member of staff, or an advisory board member. We're considering all our advisory board members are volunteers.
Yeah,
It's a bit tricky.
okay, so we'd have to strike out the advisory board member. Okay. Okay. Where are we? Then we're at, let's go back to the
I
other
think we
list.
stopped at 15. Yeah.
12. Yeah. And we had previously looked at improper use of influence in election activities, right? Or did anybody else want to rehash that? No. Okay. Okay, so with that, have we addressed all the issues there? So what I would suggest is if we get another draft, maybe with track changes back from staff before it's given to us, if we could ask the CAO to look over it, I think that would be better. And it might save some time. And then we'll bring it back to council for consideration again. Okay?
Is that a motion?
No, that's just my suggestion. Yeah. Council, CAO Pyatt, did you want to comment? No.
All sounding great.
Okay. Okay, with all sounding great, then we will move on, if that's okay, to page 35, which is the fees amendment bylaw number 695. So you remember that we have been talking about the fees for the school. This is located in Schedule B. There was a comment from a community member that they thought that everybody, including the fire department, should have to pay. And so that's up for discussion. Is there anything that staff want to add to this?
I can maybe talk about
Yeah, thank you.
fees and charges for the fire department. Fees and charges for the fire department. In the accounting process, it's possible to do that, to show the cost of rental of a facility in one section of the budget, and then in the other section, there'd be like some form of offset.
So rental?
Well, the cost of the fire department renting our facility is a cost to the district.
Okay.
So if there is a cost allocated in a line item in the accounting process, then there's an offset to the cost
Okay.
to balance the operating budget. So the offset to the cost would be an increase to the fire budget.
Right, so this wouldn't be a bill to the firefighter society, it would be the fire department, right?
It depend on the use of the facility.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. To the society, I'm not sure exactly. Maybe the fire chief could talk to that, but I was thinking more about the fire department.
Councillor Epp, Councillor Donaldson, and then maybe the fire chief.
Well, it's my understanding that the fees that are listed in the schedule are just basically a work in progress. That all those things can be changed, and the kitchen will be added, and so on. None of them are set in stone, really do. So it's just a place to get started, so that we can get the rentals underway for the school, and then we'll certainly have a learning experience as we move along.
Could I comment on that as well, Mayor, through the
I'm sorry,
council?
say it again?
If I could comment on that as well. We are in the process of learning, and there is some merit in allocating a cost to the use of facility for regardless of who it is, so we actually know what the costs are from a cost accounting perspective. So maybe, in perspective, that's something we could consider in the next budget process. For now, we're just trying to figure out, a lot of moving parts in the actual fee structure, but maybe in the next year's budget, we can consider, the cost center allocation. So for example, if the fire department uses the facility and we're currently not charging a fee, that's fine, but it would be nice to know what the cost is to the district for doing that. So because in the facility, the facility will not be like 100% cost recovery. Okay? We know that. I think we all agree to that. It could be 50% cost recovery, could be 60% cost recovery. We don't know. So in the future, if we want to know exactly what the cost recovery is, and maybe we do allocate a cost to any user regardless, so we can capture that data, and we know the exact cost of the facility, and understanding that if our own departments rent the facility, there has to be an offset to that. There has to be some sort of form of, yes, council understands, and they accept that cost or whatever. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I'm just wondering when you want to do it. Do you want to
I would
have
say
that-
not this year,
Not
because
this
we're so far involved right now with actually figuring out the fees and charges, that maybe as we learn next year through the use of the facility, and we see what the actual costs are for the first year through through trial and error, then maybe we start allocating a little bit better where the cost should be attributed to. Okay.
I'm reluctant, Councillor Gray, not to put anything about the kitchen in here because I bet you we're going to have an inquiry in March. Wedding season is coming up, and as it sits, what would they pay? Would they pay hourly fee for the school gymnasium? Would that maybe, I think probably we should itemize it here. Councillor Rapp.
Well, I'm sure that's, in the plan, but that's something that that the CAO will need to figure out in relationship with the rest. So I'm not sure, when that can be done, but whether it can be done by the next, that would be up to you as to when. We might be able to have a schedule of fees for the use of the kitchen or anything else we might be missing.
Councillor Donaldson, then CAO play.
Thank you. We had discussed this earlier in the year. I know that you had submitted some information. I had submitted a booklet actually of information. I had done some research a couple years ago when I was in Health Communities, but again, earlier this last year, for event planning and different places similar to what we have here, and they're all separate. They weren't always packaged up together, so a kitchen oftentimes was separate. And I think that in conversations we've had at this table in planning, that the kitchen fees will come, the field rentals will come, same as the parking plan, and with that, any rental of parking for food trucks or food tents or whatever have to be figured out with the tenants. So there's still more planning to happen. And in reading the Health Communities minutes this last month, clearly there's interest there for using the kitchen. I know that there are, even through the ag population, there is interest as well. Unfortunately, it won't be for canning, because I don't think the kind of stove that got put in is going to work for canning. So food processing is going to be eliminated unless we can find something different. Yeah, but canning preserves are different. You get to freeze and stuff home, right? So the idea is to take the canning home with you, right? So canners don't go on a smooth top.
And do you have a copy of that booklet?
I do have the material, yes.
It'd be good for the CAO as his reference.
Sure. Yeah, I probably have it all on electronics.
Okay. Super. Yeah, go ahead.
So, thank you very much. And I'm prepared to vote and move this along right now. The question I would have, and maybe I wonder if Mr. Pyatt can address this, we are bound, as you say, Mayor Little, Councillor Donaldson, to get an inquiry about the use of the kitchen. And I wonder if there's a provision where we could apply a fee. And again, like, are we bound to just applying a fee through the policy, or sorry, the bylaw here? Could we, do our best to understand what is an appropriate thing? Or are we bound to do it through the bylaw?
Well, that's why you do it by bylaw, so it's equitable to everybody. It's not, the kitchen's not rented for $25 for one individual or $250 for another, right? So it should be fair and equitable for all of the users. Go ahead.
I think it's coming up soon. talked about it, and Mr. Pyatt knows this is the next step, and Councillor Donaldson's laid out the other charges, so I think we just let the staff do their work, and they'll come back as soon as they can with some ideas about it. But I think the key thing tonight is to get this bylaw passed, and you're about to move the motion, and then we'll pick up all these frayed ends as it comes together. And I would just want to appreciate the work that's gone into all this and getting it done, particularly Deputy Corporate Officer who's been struggling to get us through the different stages here. So if we could do it today, I think it'd be great. By the way, I do like the in and out idea. Councillor Donaldson had suggested that at a previous meeting, the idea of being able to see how much money is being spent, or how much the fire department's using it, and I think it makes sense. It's an accounting job, but I think Mr. Pyatt's given us good advice on that too.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson and CAO Pyatt, did you want an opportunity to speak? And speak when you can go ahead, Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, just quickly to move this along is we're at third reading, so we're looking for adoption so we can get moving
Yeah.
February 1st. So let's go ahead, and my recommendation is to move along, and then potentially halfway through the year we could do a half-year review on fees and charges.
Okay,
Okay.
good idea. Very good idea. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And the everyone pay is a great way of tracking that data. And whether that is immersed into training costs or whatever, those are things that need to be explored. But one of the questions I do have is, so we've got four categories here.
Yes.
Do we have anywhere where it's written what the definition of each of these groups are?
No.
Okay, because I think that would be valuable as well. I know we've stayed away from the profit, non-profit, but if we could define what a community group is, a commercial, recreational, recreational groups can also be community groups, so it's...
So would you like
we
staff?
wouldn't need it today, but I think as we, at a 6-month review, we can, put some of our thoughts together as to what exactly are each of these groups.
Yeah. And the users might inform our 6-month review, whoever is.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That from
Okay.
the public would be great.
Okay, so then Councillor Shukin, you had asked, could you move this along? Absolutely.
I'll move council adopt fees amendment bylaw 2024 number 695
Second.
with the attachment of fee bylaw 2024 number 695, third reading.
Okay, this moved by Councillor F, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion? No? All in favor? Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. And then we also have another letter from the Deputy Corporate Officer. This is regarding MTI's Municipal Ticket Information Authorization Bylaw 2024, number 697, particularly relating to issues of dogs.
Mayor Moon,
Yes.
I would move that council adopt ticket information authorization amendment bylaw 2004 number 697. So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And so this was, we just wanted to do the third reading, right? Or you want to do first, second, third?
So just adoption for both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. That's great. And then that is it. Does anybody else have anything else on any of these issues that is on the agenda today? What say ye?
Mayor Moon, I move adjournment.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Well, that was 2 hours.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah. Thanks for the